How's it going, Kittanning? Welcome back to the Greatest City in the World podcast. This is your second episode of the second season of the Mental Health Monday.
Yes.
And so if you guys joined us last week, we had a pretty good conversation trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Didn't solve all of my problems, but hopefully it was valuable for you guys. If you didn't catch it, put a link in the description here so you can go and check that out if you want to after this discussion. But we're going to kind of continue on in the same vein. But there was first off, I guess we better tell the people who you are.
Okay. I'm Joan Arroyo. I'm a licensed professional counselor, but primarily I'm a Christian. And what has been revealed to me in terms of us needing to understand how God created us with a very specific pattern of design that we can indeed understand to be able to access a life of peace is such an important concept.
Absolutely.
That I am adamant about getting the information out there so that it's something that everybody can use. It unlocks so much in terms of anxiety, depression, drug addiction, all of the things that we use to try to make ourselves feel better or to try to outrun ourselves.
Yeah.
So thank God for Andrew, because he's someone that I met very, very early on. He understood the concept and has helped me to run with it.
Yeah. Not just understood the concept. The concept changed my life.
Okay.
And it's continuing to change my life.
Okay.
And so I really believe in this, when I was thinking about this kind of shift in the channel, like for what we're trying to do, we want to make Kittanning one of the greatest cities in America by 2027. Like that's our goal. And so, as I was thinking in my couple-month break, I was like, okay, what do we have to what's the next step here? Like, how can we continue to make progress? There's a lot of good things happening around,
absolutely.
and we're really happy about that. But I don't think we'll ever be able to kind of get over some of the issues, like the things you just said: depression, anxiety, and addiction. Those three-headed monster that all goes together. We can't ever solve that problem without changing the mindset, both from people that are kind of caught in the throes of that, and for people that are not.
Right.
Because you have to, even everyone who is not caught in that at this point in time, they need to understand it and know it to be able to have empathy for it.
Very much so. And especially, I find that the people who have the least empathy for it are the most scared of falling into something of that sort because they feel out of control themselves.
Yeah.
And there's almost like a self-satisfaction in, well, I didn't do that. Well, at least I don't. Well, at least I don't. And true, but manifestation of anxiety, depression, and things that are bothering of us take on many, many different forms. And what has been revealed to me allows us to really understand what that means individually, personally. And that's what I'm after for everyone.
Yeah, and if we have that mentality, we're never going to be able to help anybody, And so we have to understand it ourselves, and then we can actually begin to.
We have to have
help
empathy
others.
and compassion for ourselves first also,
Yeah.
which seems to be a huge missing piece.
Right. Okay. So I'm calling this kind of the first real episode, and last one was just kind of getting our feet wet. You posted something a few months ago. I thought it was a few weeks ago, but I went back and looked. It was September 21st. That's how fast time is going these days. And it was a quote you said from Socrates, we think. It says, "The unexamined life is not worth living."
Right.
And I thought, what an interesting statement, because how often do we go through a day, a week, a month, a year, and we haven't sat and thought about what I'm actually doing here? And it's so easy to go through the motions, number one, and then number two, to get caught up in everything that's happening.
Right.
I think especially with these last couple of years, we're all experiencing how fast time can go when we're anxious or when we're depressed or whatever it might be.
Right.
And our lives just can slip through our fingers.
Yeah.
So, I kind of think in my life, I have a lot of these times, and just want to get your take on it too. But I guess I'll go first.
Sure.
and then you can correct all the things that I do wrong.
It's not about correction, you guys. It's about discovery, whatever your own answers are, to be able to hear yourself.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make that clear. I know he's joking, and I hope you guys know he's joking. But yeah, it's not a you're wrong, I'm right, I have your answers, you don't. It's not that in any way, shape, or form. If it were, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I think I had this this thing, 12 years ago when my life changed through a relationship with God. I can remember one of the very first sermons that I ever heard that changed me. Mm-hmm. It was a sermon called Examine Yourself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they used the scripture here, 2 Corinthians 13, verse 5. This was the main scripture. It says, "Test yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Examine yourselves, or don't you know yourselves that Jesus Christ is in you?" Mm. And so it's this call to like, okay, if you're going to say you're this person,
right,
then you better be actually looking at your life and actually walking that out. Mm-hmm. And if you can't look at your life and see that you are walking it out, right, then you're probably not.
Right.
And so that's, obviously we're talking about it here from a Christian perspective, mm-hmm, but I think that goes for everything.
It does.
And so a lot of times, we can put on a bold face and mm-hmm, pretend that we're something that we're not. But right, if the fruit of your life isn't showing it, then you're not walking in it.
Yeah, and that means checking it out inside.
Yeah.
Because externally, you can look very confident. Externally, people can envy you or think you have it going on, but you know what's happening inside. So that's where the examination needs to happen.
Yeah, and I'm fairly good, I think, at examining my life when it comes to like getting things done. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to think in my mind, how can I transfer my systems that I have for getting things done to that's my check-in for to make sure I'm making progress in that way. Uh-huh. How can I use those same systems to then check in up here? Yeah. Because what I'll do, I'll make lists, mm-hmm, and then I'll revisit those lists. I'll carry the lists around with me. Mm-hmm. I'll try to update them every week. Okay, I got those things done, and I'm going to add these 3 new things that I don't have done yet. Mm-hmm. Or I might have video ideas for things that I want to do, and I'll revisit those and kind of try to continue to make sure that I'm making progress. But sometimes those systems, if I don't have the right mindset in it, mm-hmm, when those things go by the wayside, it's kind of everything falls apart.
Okay.
And so I shouldn't say falls apart, but things fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And things take way longer than they probably should. Okay. And maybe that's just me being overly hard on myself, but that's just kind of the reality from my perspective. Yeah. So I don't know, is that a way to do a mental check-in?
No.
Or is that a way to examine a life?
No.
I mean, because that's how my mind works. I'm very linear about things and checklists.
That's checklisting your human doing.
Yeah.
You're a human being.
Yes. Okay. See, I told you there would be correction.
So, in the being sense, right?
Yeah.
What are the things of value? And again, we're talking from a Christian perspective. So, in having the body in a rest and digest state that allows the prefrontal cortex to come online, the thinking brain, the brain that can execute long-term mm-hmm, goals, right? Those 2 things then need to be in line with the fruits of the Spirit. Emotion is what the fruits of the Spirit allows us to measure how well we're doing against. Do you want to list the fruits of the Spirit? Can you? I tried earlier today, and sometimes I can. Sometimes I go brr, brr, brr,
love,
and
joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. I'm missing a couple though. Faithfulness, yeah.
So love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness,
patience, kindness, self-control.
Kindness,
yeah,
and self-control.
Yeah, they're all
right. Okay, so
you're saying those? Okay. So you said those are emotional, mm-hmm, okay, mm-hmm, and those are then benchmarks.
3 of them are emotions, right?
Okay.
Well, 2, I should say. Love and self-control are the stirring sense of connection and the stirring sense of calm that, when combined, allow us to have power in our lives.
Okay.
Okay, so the power of the power of love and self-control. Okay, so love and self-control bookend the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit are feelings. Feelings and emotions are not the same thing. And that's a huge misconception that lead us astray.
Okay.
Do you think feelings and emotions are the same thing?
I mean, I still link them even after all of our conversations. Yeah.
They're linked. Do you know what the link is?
So I would say like the emotion that I'm feeling, the emotion drives my feeling.
Okay.
Or is it the other way around?
Well, emotion drives feeling, but you're missing something in there that makes the emotion a feeling.
Okay, I don't got it.
The thought.
Okay.
Okay, so the thought is what makes it a feeling.
Or like what I consider like my mindset?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I call it Mindscape because if we're in a rest and digest body the way God created us to be, which we know because homeostasis is in our body that allows a state of health where all of our major organ groups are functioning and major muscle groups are functioning the way they're supposed to be functioning. So that allows us to know that that is indeed how we were created to be. So from that point, it allows the prefrontal cortex to be online. That's a mindscape, meaning that it shapes how our thoughts are going to be processed in our mind. If, however, we are in the sympathetic nervous state, the fight or flight, which we're not created to be in a dominant way, then the amygdala, the fear center, is in charge. And so with that mindscape, the way our mind is shaped under fear means that our thoughts are going to be within that realm that then dictates what we are to be doing in order to get through our day, rather than us being able to choose a path and have response for whatever is happening in our day. So those are two very, very important concepts, because when we have energy and motion, which is what emotion is, emotere, Latin root, energy and motion, right?
Yep.
All emotion is it's a stirring sense of something.
Yeah.
Okay? A stirring sense of things that were present whenever we've had different experiences.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
period.
like just emotions are they're built in us. Like we all have the capacity to experience fear and sadness and happiness and all those different kinds of things. Right. But then what we do with those emotions are like, I mean, based off of the mindset that we have.
Based off of the mindset.
That's going to drive us to a feeling, whether that feeling is correct or incorrect. Then is.
Yeah. Well, our feelings are always valid, right?
Yeah.
Because it's never like right or wrong, as in you shouldn't feel that way. But it's not always accurate. Okay, it's always valid. We have to examine ourselves. Okay, I'm feeling this way. Because if we don't validate how we're feeling, then we can't work through and understand where we've started or where we want to go.
Sure.
Okay, so it's the thought that makes the difference. One young man in Trey's graduating class, he said, "Don't be sad because it's over. Be happy because it happened at all."
Yeah.
Okay, so sadness, stirring sense of lack and loss. They were all experiencing a sense of lack and loss.
Right.
Okay. But some thought of it, oh, we had a pandemic year, oh, we didn't get to do this, we didn't get to do that, blah, 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 blah. They felt yucky.
Right.
Right? Don't be sad that it's over in this way. Be happy that we got to have a graduation at all.
Right.
And this kid was walking on air. He's like, right? He was feeling accomplished and satisfied. So
they're both experiencing the same emotions, and yet their feelings were very different about it because one had the correct mindset and one did not.
Right.
Mindscape.
Yeah, and not correct necessarily, because it is a chosen mindset once you understand what it is that's going into the dynamics and interdependence of body, mind, and emotion. So if we start saying that's incorrect, that's kind of a shutdown, right? Yeah. We have to say, this is how you examine.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I I should say in my own life, I look at it as correct and incorrect because I'm either telling myself the truth through a proper mindset and processing my emotions the right way, or I'm telling myself a lie. Like there's no real in between there. For me.
Right. Well, so, yes, and that's true. It's a very. I mean, they go back and forth, but when you look at the functioning of the two alignments, they're very distinct. They are indeed very distinct. And that's why I really am emphasizing Mindscape, not mindset, because mindset has been used over and over and over again in a way that makes it sound like, oh, you just have to set your mind. And if you didn't set your mind, well, then you lose, your willpower's bad or whatever.
Right.
The connotation is with that.
Yeah.
It's how, literally, what area of your brain the synapses are firing through.
Yeah.
Literally, it's a pathway.
And the mindset thing, and that's why it's probably burned in me, is because there's a lot of entrepreneurial YouTubers, like motivational speakers that like they hammer on the mindset, and it is true, right? But it's incomplete, because of what we're talking about. Right. Like, okay, so it's really interesting. So maybe just a scenario here, or let's read the scripture that we talked about earlier, because this is one of your foundational, like your whole thing is.
And I should mention, guys, I didn't know any. I wasn't a Christian before I learned any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what brought me to really believing and knowing and trusting and relying on God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, because I'm like, oh, it's all right here, and it's been an amazing discovery. And so, whether or not anyone wants to do it as a spiritual walk or just as a very basic understanding of learning to drive the car, so to speak, knowing where the gas pedal is, knowing where the brake is, knowing how to steer. Those are the fundamentals of how we've been designed, and we can exert influence over it.
Yeah. Well, it's like back to where we started, right? Mm-hmm. The unexamined life is not worth it's not worth living. Like, to use your car analogy, to buy a car but not know how to drive it is like why would you ever do that?
Right.
And so if you're going to have a life, you might as well figure out how to live it.
Absolutely. 100%.
So, and I think this is universal truth, okay? For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, or some translations are fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. And some others say power, love, and self-control. And so it's really kind of what we're talking about. When I'm trying to think about when my mind's in a bad place. So someone does something to me, I'm offended about it, and then I go to that place in my mind. I'm angry now, and then my mindscape starts to shift, and I go to a bad place, and I start all the self-talk of like, I can't believe that person wronged me. I can't believe, and I start to go down this different path. Right. At that point, I'm really operating in a spirit of fear.
Absolutely.
Because I'm saying essentially, like, I'm giving that person control over my life.
Exactly. You're giving him or her your power.
Right.
Right. And then and your self-control, because that then becomes a reactive place. Right. And love, guys, stirring sense of connection, right? Let's get a better understanding of what love means. It just means a sense of you matter in some way, shape, or form. Okay? And for the fruits of the Spirit, it is indeed connection to God. And it is indeed his power of love and self-control. But since he's our grand designer, right, we can access those same things in the way that we're speaking about it being universal.
Right. And so I'm not, we weren't created to live like that. And so, but
nope.
So then if I can then be able to step back, examine the life, then I can basically kick out that mindset.
Right. But it's the emotion, it's the energy and motion that shapes our sympathetic nervous system, fight or fear to begin with. Or, fight or flight to begin with, right? So if we don't know what to do with that emotion, and it cannot be processed in a rest and digest body with the prefrontal cortex, then it keeps the power to throw us right back into that fear state.
Right.
And that's why the interdependence is so vital. Because without those three components, then it's a roller coaster and a merry-go-round, right? Yeah. Round and round, up and down, round and round, up and down. And that's the part that we can really access and examine to then determine how, what, where, why, when we want to be doing anything.
Yeah.
Or why we've made the mistakes that we've made as well.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I know people who are like perpetually angry, okay? And so if you're always in that state, like if you never step back and examine, you're never going to be able to get out of it.
Right.
But in the moment, even if I can step back and examine, then I can shift the mindscape. Then I can take the same emotion that I'm feeling, anger, and instead of letting it drive me to a bad place, I can take that same emotion and then basically use it to self-analyze. Why am I angry right now?
Right.
Like that really wasn't that big of a deal, or like life is bigger than all this, and I don't have to go there.
Yes, and and it gets it in perspective, right? Because again, that's the prefrontal cortex prioritizes.
Right.
All right. So it gets it in perspective, and then you can determine how it is that you want to be thinking about it, or how you want to be feeling about the situation, which is where the fruits of the Holy Spirit come in.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So that's why I talked about that being the measure, not ticking your boxes of human doing, but checking out who you are as a human being.
So I can literally go through there and be like, am I living a joyous life? Am I living a grateful life? Am I like exactly. and go one by one?
Right. And this is really moving in a direction more and more universally, right? In that, I don't know if any of you guys know who Gary Vee is. Andrew introduced me to him, all right? But he has a book called 12 and a Half, which he's really promoting for how he believes we should be doing business going forward. And it lists 12 and a half, it lists 13 qualities. He feels like he's really good at 12, and then one, he's only a half, all right? But that's what he measures how he's doing, how he's being, not how he's doing in his business, but how he's being in his business. And the fruits of the Spirit are in there.
Yeah. I always say, like, Gary Vee is not a Christian, but I'm like, that guy preaches the gospel half the time and doesn't even know that he's, like, if you just added Jesus and took out the swear words, he could be a preacher.
Right, yeah. And that's the truth of the matter. So everybody who is optimistic and has hope has these same tenets. It would be stellar once everybody knows that it is indeed from God, but it works whether you know it or not. And that's the beauty. And one of the things that I'm being reminded of is that when I worked at a agency, and this is one of the ways that God got a hold of me, it took a while, I never heard one person say that they were healed without God. Every person, and remember, I wasn't a Christian, every person who said that they were healed and that our work together had been transformative and you know, it made a world of difference, right? They all talked about relationship with God.
Yeah.
And so, like 3 years in, I was like, oh. But that's the truth of the matter. Not that other people didn't get better and do better, but the word healed only came up when they had relationship with God. Yeah,
and it's like this sense of like freedom. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. This young person, and like their life is dramatically shifted from kind of this old life to new life. And I just looked at them. I was like, you're in your 20s. You just figured this thing out. And you can see the mind change. You can see now that when the emotions come in, you can see like the whole decision making process is different. Everything is shifted. And I was like, look, you're 7 years into adulthood.
Yeah.
Of 70.
I know, right?
Like you're in the first 10% of the game, and they're looking at me like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm like, you already won.
Right. Exactly.
Like if you can figure this head thing out.
Right. If
this
you know
body, mind, and emotions.
Right. And it applies to everything. Yeah. Right. You can keep on walking. You don't have to circle back to whoever, whatever you relied on or who told you. Right. You don't need a therapist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like there are there are so many people on the earth that live here for 80 years and never figure out how to drive the car.
Right,
you know?
exactly right. And to be fair, we didn't have the neuroscience and the imagery that now allows us to really see what's happening.
Yeah.
So this work does stand on the shoulders of giants, of people who kept pursuing, and putting together. But the imagery that neuroscience has allowed us to actually see what's happening unlocks it. And now we know how to drive the car.
Right. And so, I mean, no matter how old you are out there, but I just want you to know, like, freedom is available. And when you experience that for the first time, when this stuff starts to click in your mind, it's like you already won the game of life.
Right.
And everything from that point forward is gravy.
Right. It's all gravy, baby.
And so that's what I was telling this person, is like, man, you just figured it out. You already won. And now whatever you do in your life for the next 60, 70, 80 years that you're on this planet, it's all gravy. And you get to be completely free through that whole process.
Yeah, amazing, right? Amazing.
It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's fantastic at any age, but if you're young, grab it now. And even if, because I was reflecting on that as well, and I was thinking, wow, a lot of life and a lot of time passed. What if I had known? But I also know that God is perfect in his timing.
Right.
So wherever you are, however you're hearing this, it's going to be beneficial and something for you in the here and now, not in a regretful sense that we didn't know it sooner.
Yeah. So, was there any other thing else major you want to talk about? I was just going to kind of wrap up.
Okay, no, yeah, having to do with this, no.
Okay. Because I was just going to say, like, this time we talked a lot more about emotions, which I'm glad we did, because the last time we mentioned it, but didn't really get into it a whole lot. Last time we talked a lot about the body and what it is to, like, be able to relax the body so you can even enter into this.
That's right, because we got to be able to enter in. Correct.
And so the more we have these conversations, when we talk about Mental Health Monday, it's not just all about your mind.
It can't be.
Yeah, it can't be, and it will never be complete that way. So it's literally your body, your mind, and emotions. Those three things working in the way that they should.
Right.
So that we can live in power and love and self-control.
Correct. Last time I mentioned Trifecta,
Yeah.
right? And right at the cusp, at the beginning, very, very beginning of me actually formalizing this work, I kept hearing the word trifecta, and I asked my niece, I said, what does trifecta mean? I mean, I knew the term, right? But I was like, what does it mean? And she said, it means a force to be reckoned with. Power, love, self-control.
There you go.
Okay, in body, mind, emotion. Trifectas.
So instead of fearful people, we can be forces to be reckoned with.
Correct.
I like that.
Yeah.
So if you felt like today you didn't get the full picture of it, I would say go listen to the other one. And then I would also say, put your questions in the comments.
Please.
If you have a question about anything that we talked about, or how does this work, or what does this look like from a scientific point of view, we'd be more than happy to. Joan probably has the answer already, but even if she doesn't, we'd be more than happy to research it and come back and do a quick episode about it.
Right.
And then situations as well. So we posted the first episode last week. We had a person comment about a situation in the school that they were concerned about as far as mental health goes. So we're gonna visit that for a future episode. Yeah. And so if you have situations in your life or different things going on in the community that you're like, hey, what about this?
Right.
Tell us.
Right. So what I wanted to mention when you had asked me if I had anything major to say, that when I said not about this, not specifically what we were talking about for this episode, but that we are going to address the school question because it's a huge, really, really important, vital component of how we as a society move forward, right? And understanding what it means to really be able to exert influence over ourselves in situations like the person who commented was talking about. Yeah. So, and when I say exert influence, it's not exerting force. Yeah. And it's not a force to be reckoned with in the sense that we are going to promote reaction, right? We're talking about the embodiment of power, love, and self-control within our body, minds, and emotions.
Ooh, that'd be a good episode too.
Okay.
And if that wasn't a good enough preview for next time, I don't know what would be. That's all I got.
All right, me too. I'm good.
We're at right about a half an hour. We're gonna try to keep these right in that
Good.
range. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Would love your feedback in the comments as well. And like I said, any questions that you have or any ideas for future episodes or situations that you're going through, we can keep you anonymous and we can talk through and try to be a help.
Sure. Yeah, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it, guys. Bless you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.